Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Inside. Now, with your host, welcome the guest, your host for tonight's program. Excuse me, please welcome the lovely Angela Sawyer.
Hi. Welcome, everybody. It's very nice to see you. Thank you so much for being here. You have made it to Tales from the Inside. It's a weekly storytelling show that back when there was a real life, we used to host it in my living room, and now it is in computers every week. And it's been cool. I've gotten to put up a bunch of people who I really like, see a bunch of people who I don't get to see, and I hear a lot of stories, and that's been really nice. We've been doing it, I think this is the 14th or 15th show, which means that I have now laid out all of the trauma of my entire life, and I have no therapeutic stories left to tell. It's just my weekly. People make the joke all the time that comedy is too much of a weekly therapy session, and what I want to say to that is, if you think that that is a stale idea, know that I am getting exactly what I pay for, which is nothing. I am not getting better. It's been cool, but I've been trying to figure out what to do. It's also been, I'm sure you've noticed, the world is completely insane. Um, if you haven't been afraid of dying from an illness, then maybe you've been afraid of getting shot to death by state troopers. And if you're not afraid of that, then maybe you haven't been able to pay rent, or maybe your job is trying to kill you. It's been a lot. And so the story that I have today is pretty small. And I'm actually very pleased about what happened to me this week, because it's a very, like, it feels like such an old uh before times problem. And I'm just happy that, like, something that I used to think was very bad is still there. I'm very comforted. So I want to tell you, most people on the show, you guys are performers, and I'm sure some of the people who watch the show do art or performance of some kind or another. And uh, I don't know if you realize this, but I'm sure you probably do, at least to some degree, that if you do any sort of artistic performance, anything like that, you always have to negotiate with these platforms, with some sort of gatekeeper or platform, and they're always problematic in one way or another. Uh, there's no such thing as like a network that lets you talk to a ton of people that just is like, go great on everything that you're into. It's never, ever, ever the case. And maybe that's not even anyone's fault. I don't know for sure, but I do know that organizing a platform that lets you talk to a lot of people costs money and has to employ people. And so it always gets messed up. And so this week, I had the very charming thing happen where a storytelling show, not this one, which I will not name, they're perfectly nice, but they wrote to me about a story that I tell often. And they were like, hey, the story that you tell, Angela, it's great, but we need you to cut it down to like 1/10 of its normal size. And if you could just play up the assault angle, just play up the sexual assault angle. And I was like, oh, that's not cool. That's not okay. You don't get to say that to a human person. and and so I just kind of put that email to the side, and I was like, I've got other problems that I can deal with right now. And that is such an old, seems like such a 2005 problem that I think I'm going to just like figure out the grocery store for a while. So I ignored it. And then later I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, I like what those people do, and all these cool people have been on that show, and I wish that I got to be one of the cool people. And so I was like trying to figure out how to negotiate it without being a horrible person, which, if you haven't met me, I am anyway, so it's fine. Um, but trying to figure out how to negotiate it so that it wouldn't be quite so gross. And it made me realize that there's no perfect platform. There's no completely safe place to do things. But also, it reminded me of this one time back in the mid 1990s when I played that little game of dealing with a plat and I accidentally won. So that is the story that I'm going to tell you tonight. So in the mid 1990s, I still am, but I was into being a musician. That was the thing that I was trying to do all the time. And I got very excited because in about 1995 or six, they made the first computers that were less than $1,000 that had CD burners in them. So now you could buy something and you could make an entire musical recording on the thing and then also make copies of it and send it to people, and the whole thing was in one box. And I was like, I got to get that. I got to get one of those. And so I saved up for like a year. I put my tiny bits of money aside, and I got close, and I like dug through the change in the couch, and I walked to the computer store so that I wouldn't have to pay for transportation. And I literally spent every last penny buying this like, $998 computer, which sounds, I don't know if that sounds expensive now or not, but at that time it was crazy expensive and it was a really stupid thing to risk rent over. But I was like, I gotta have this thing. So I carried it back, sweating. It was a day just like today. It was super, super hot outside. And I sweated all over the thing, first thing. And I carried it back to my apartment and plugged it in. And then I spent the next like year just making a record. I was like, it needs to be 45 minutes. It needs to have this and that and this and that. I worked really hard on it. And then I made 200 copies of it, which I burned one at a time in real time because that was as good as CD burners were then. So I would like every night I would set a CD burner, a CD in there, and then have the blank one come out, and it would go back and forth and back and forth. It was like a little cooking project. And then I'd have one new one that I could send away. And I handmade all the little covers for it, and I drew on it and the whole 9 yards. And then I had this list that I spent all this time putting together of all the places that I thought it should go. All the record labels that I liked, and all the journalists that I liked. And little by little, I sent out all 200, and no one wrote back. And I was like, oh, that seems normal. So I went on with my life and used the computer to find out what MySpace was, that sort of thing. And then like several months later, this record label wrote to me out of the blue, one of the labels that I really liked. And they were like, hey, I got your submission and it's pretty cool, but I would rather put out a compilation of everything you've ever done, which sounds very complimentary, except there was no such thing as everything that I had ever done. That was the only thing that I had ever done. And I didn't know how to respond. I was just like, what do I tell them? Like, I spent a lot of time trying to specifically make like a finished product, and they want to compile, I don't know what. So I wrote them back and I was like, that doesn't exist. I'm so sorry. But I would love it if you put out this thing that I made, especially for that purpose. And then they never spoke to me again. That is the normal reaction. They just were like, if you don't fit in, then we don't talk to you anymore. So I was very disappointed. I was super crushed, but I was like, oh, I guess that was my one shot. Maybe I should make another couple hundred of them, or maybe I should try again. Maybe it just wasn't very good. Maybe I'm just not very good at music, which is entirely true. So another several months went by. So at this point, it's been like 3 years since I first got the thing. And one day, out of the blue, yet again, a different label that I had sent the original CDR to wrote to me, and they were like, hey, you sent us a CDR like a year ago. We like it, but we'd really like to put together like a compilation of like you and some other people and this and that. And this time I remembered what had happened the time before. So I wrote and I said, sure, whatever you want. And then they wrote to me and they were like, great, what do you have? And so I just sent them a package with the same CDR in it because that was all there was. And I was like, this is everything that I've made. And, I sent them some like extra drawings so that they would maybe not notice. and they wrote me back, and amazingly, that went okay. They were like, oh, cool. And it again, there was like months between all of the interactions, but eventually we got closer and closer, and they would wait a month and be like, well, what about this? And I'd say every time I just wrote yes, and then I would just do whatever made sense. So finally, we got to the point where they were going to put out the record that I had made pretty much as is. And they had gotten someone to draw art for it, which someone drew like weird cartoon people made out of triangles and circles. And I was like, okay. And they asked me for, they were like, you need a bio for when we give this press releases and so on. And so I was trying to figure that out. And then in the middle of all that, they were like, oh, here's the thing. We really need you to get this mastered. We need to make sure that this goes through an extra level of like sound reconstruction. It's very expensive, so that it will have the proper polish and sheen on it that recordings made by important people are supposed to have. And the thing is, we don't want to pay for that because that's hundreds or thousands of dollars. We want you to do it and pay for it and send it to us. And I said, sure. And then I fired up my CD burner and made an exact another copy of the same thing. And I put it in a new envelope that I typed on a typewriter. I typed remastered on it, on the envelope, and I mailed it off to them far away in Germany. And then before I mailed it, I was like, oh, mastering takes a while. I should wait like a week before I mail it. So I waited a week, and my roommate's dog walked on it a couple of times. And then I was like, this looks perfect. And I sent it out. And they wrote back a month later, and they were like, wow, this mastering job is incredible. Who did you get to do such a good job? It sounds completely different. And I didn't know what to say to that. So I thought about it. I asked my friend's advice, and I had a trusted friend who I could ask about things like that. And they were like, just don't tell them what you did. They were like, I don't know what you do, but don't tell them what you did. Just pretend like everything's okay. So I waited a little too long. I waited like 3 months before I wrote back. And finally, surprising to me, they were like, hey, where are we? What's going on? And so I was like, okay, I just gotta do it. So I wrote back and I was like, I know that this is real unusual, but here's the thing. The person who mastered the record is very, very expensive. And I got them to give me a deal, and they made me promise not to say who it is. So I can't tell you who mastered the record, but man, did you get a good deal. Like, you got a great deal for the money, and they did an amazing job, don't you think? And the company wrote back and they were like, yes, thank you so much. You did so great. I can't believe this is going to come out. So then they released it, which was very nice of them, and I greatly appreciate that. They did not make me pay them any money to do that. And they sent a bio out with it, and they had me write the bio. And so in the bio, I said that I was a dude named Oliver, and that I told them that I was mostly mute. I was a dude named Oliver who hardly ever spoke, and no one knew why. And that my sister, Lisa, who was also a person I made up, but not the person on the show, that my sister, Lisa, did all the singing as a huge favor to me. And I was like, that story And then I found a photo of some like super skinny dude with like a huge Adam's apple standing with a girl who was like a little bit too close to him for them to be friends. I was like, there we go. I sent that photo and that bio, and I was like, that's who made this record. That is who made this. And I was like, no one's going to buy this. Everybody's going to listen to it and be like, no, this is clearly some weird lady in her late 20s. But I was like, doesn't matter. As long as the bio is correct, it will get it reviewed. And that is how you get people to buy the record. Like when it gets a cool review, that's what sells the record. So, and it worked. The bio went out and I got reviewed in like the Cool Kids online music reviewing forum, and they trashed the record. They hated it. They absolutely loathed it. They gave it a really bad review, and they were like, this record, the label that put this out, this German label, their last record was so cool. It was by these dudes who do like super white dance music, and isn't that amazing? But this seems to just be like some weird lady pretending to be a dude with an Adam's apple. And so my story today is that you should continue to lie for good, lie for the best causes. And when platforms are, in order to have a platform at all, you have to negotiate through bullshit. And you should do that to the best of your ability, and don't worry about the cutthroats that you left in the street behind you. So that's my story for today. I'm very, very glad to have you guys. We have an incredible lineup. I'm really psyched for everybody who's on the show. If you haven't been here before, this is a show where we ask people to tell stories where they're, a lot of comedy shows are like, tell your ba-ding ba-doom bum jokes, you know, tell the stuff that you've been working so hard on. And it's quarantine and no one has been doing that. And also, I feel like people don't get a chance to be who they really are and be vulnerable, real people on stage. They get I know I get very freaked out about making sure that everyone is laughing in the right number of seconds and that it's loud enough and that people are reacting the way they should be and they're buying their drinks and stuff. And so this show is an antidote to that, where I ask people to tell stories that maybe aren't finished. I ask them to just like think about their actual life and be the people that they really are in front of everybody. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that they came here to do that. I really, really like everybody that I book on the show, and that is never true otherwise. So it's pretty fucking great. So I'm psyched for the people that we have. Our first performer, I'm super excited. I don't want you guys to think that we planned it. I just happened to have somebody send me a shitty email about art this week, but she makes amazing art all the time. I really, really like what she does. She's very talented. She's very like multi-talented. I'm going to let you tell her all about it, but please put your hands together right now and welcome Lisa Lang.
Hello. Thank you. Did I miss something? I was waiting for the sexual assault part.
Oh, no, that's the story that I'm working on.
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I have to decide to do now is I have to decide whether I'm going to play up the sexual assault or not. And I think the answer is no.
Just do you. Be true to yourself.
That was the point of the story. That's what I'm doing.
Cool. All right. So I have prepared. Oh my goodness.
Yay.
Okay.
Little technical problem, folks. Sorry.
Oh no. Can we see my screen?
Yes.
Cool. All right, great. I decided to put together a little presentation for you guys on my journey as a hero and an artist. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about my journey, obviously, like I said. We'll go through my process of self-discovery, and then we'll touch briefly on my struggle. Okay. So there comes a time in one's life when one must choose between the social sciences and being a loser like your sister, or buying the money that they use to buy other money that comes back on to make more money, and you get back that same money. I'm of course talking about the stock market. The beginning of my tale begins with me trying to be an artist. So 15-year-old me did this lovely portrait of a lady being eaten by a six-breasted harpy, desert, and the mountain in the background is fine, and everything else, well, you know, I should work harder. Next, I get a little experimental. What you see here is a picture of a young lady who is drinking a Coca-Cola in a destroyed room on the precipice of the universe. What does it mean? I may have been on the precipice of the universe. I'm like 16 in this. That's not me. That's not a picture of me. But if you will look closely, she actually has a single tear crying into her cola. What does it mean? I don't know. I was troubled. Later on, some time goes by, and the artist becomes obsessed with Eminem. The artist loves Eminem and starts making all this stupid joke art for the rap stars that she likes. And I am aware that this is a picture of a yellow jacket and that they do not die when they sting you. They can sting you over and over and over and over and over. Honeybees die when they sting you. Okay. Next, the artist loses herself in a bowl of spaghetti because time's passing and she sees, okay, fuck, I only have one shot, one opportunity to make this the greatest life that I can ever have. And then 2016, 2015 comes around, and we get a new president, and I don't know if it's just me, but I think that he was a bit bad. So I drew this portrait of him as a pair of tits on a bagel because we don't really know that that's not what he is. I was pretty proud of this, but not everybody liked it. Not everybody liked it. It's artless talent. He said I'm talented. Okay. So I'm wondering, okay, do people not like it because it's too unsettling? No, it's just crap. Okay, so maybe the tits aren't going to work out, but I can continue to draw politicians. Pete Buttigieg was seen at the Iowa County Fair eating like a rabid animal. And to this day, there is no proof that he doesn't eat human flesh. Okay? The artist turns 30 and begins to unwind and begins to think, oh, he'll never make it. You gotta get a real job. You'll never be as cool as your sister. You'll never make it, not even to your own funeral. So it's time to choose. And what do you choose? The money. So the artist chooses money. First we learn about stocks and bonds. And these are, of course, the different securities that can be bought and sold on the stock market. Stocks being equities in companies, bonds being debt that you can buy. You can buy somebody's debt. You know what the shadiest one is? It's offshore distressed debt buyout. That's where they buy bankrupt companies in third world countries and make that into a private equity fund for these fucking Mitt Romneys. next I'd like to talk about pensions and investments. So pension is something that most of us will never have. It's where your employer pays out a defined benefit amount to you through your retirement. A defined contribution plan is when your employer
falling short a lot with this pandemic. Like this is the first time I really realized that I was like married. Like all those vows that we said about sickness and in health has really like come to fruition now. Especially where it's like like my wife will be like coughing, and I'll be like, do I go over there to take care of her, or is this gonna be like a thing? Um, and then there's also been times too where it's like I'll have a bad day with my kids. Like I can't get them to stop listening to Paw Patrol or whatever, and I'm like, maybe I should just go to bed, start over again tomorrow, or maybe I should just get like sick and then let somebody else take over. I don't know. My kids are 8 and 5, so they're right at the very beginning of their school journey. So this whole like Zoom thing has been really difficult for us. And what I've been trying to
I'm sorry,
yes,
sorry
yes,
to interrupt. You have
sure.
3 children. You have
Yeah, I
three.
do. Yeah, 3. Yeah, I got a 2-year-old who I don't know that well
Doesn't
yet.
count.
So yeah,
Okay.
she's still we're still learning about her.
Just checking.
Yeah. She's great. She's actually in the room next door, and she's learned how to say "stop, go away." And I'm the only person she says "stop, go away" to. So, for the purpose of these stories, she cannot exist. No, I've been trying to like I got I got the Disney Plus. I tried to do all that stuff. I got I bought the Teen Titans Go to the movies. Which is like this popular cartoon movie that came out last year. It's cool. It's got like a whole bunch of superheroes. One of the superheroes is black. It's Cyborg, and I was like, "Hey kids, this is like somebody you should look into." You should just like, it can be us. He's the cool guy. And the movie goes along, and then you notice that like Cyborg like can like detach his head, detach his arms. So they're like, "Why is the only black superhero like a robot? Why is he not like a normal person?" Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. But then at the end of the movie, and this is what I want to tell you guys about. So at the end of the movie, the Cyborg character goes, I don't know why. He goes, "Hey kids, hope you had a good time. Ask your parents where babies come from." Which means my 8-year-old kid has been asking me the past month and a half, where did babies come from? And at this point, I have like a different lie for where do babies come from. Because he doesn't like when people like when me and my wife like just give a little kiss like good morning. It's the grossest thing he's ever seen. He's like, I don't want that. We even got like one of those books where it's it actually has like a picture of like a dissected body, which was also kind of freaky. But it's like, here's what a baby looks like, and my son's like, this is gross. I don't like this at all. And I haven't come up with like a good explanation for it. Like the stork thing's out the window. He's not going to believe that. And then also like trying to explain like where babies come from in the middle of also trying to explain like the Black Lives Matter movement has also been insane. Like here, I'll show you something I brought. I wish I would have brought a PowerPoint like Lisa. That was pretty smart. So I'm a big basketball fan, and there's this player with my last name, Towns. I mean, he spells it differently, and he also plays for the Timberwolves. And wolves are my favorite animal. I'm obsessed with wolves. I've actually removed most of the wolf paraphernalia because my wife says it looks like something different when people see it. Like it doesn't look like I'm obsessed with wolves. It looks like I've been hunting wolves. So I don't have any wolf like dolls and stuff here anymore. But they're like my favorite animal. And at the beginning of this of the Black Lives Matter, this most recent iteration of it, with the George Floyd protests, people were wearing Minnesota Timberwolves jerseys because that's where that's where George Floyd was murdered. And I happen to have been wearing this jersey like everywhere. And also I have a Malcolm X hat that I wear all the time. Some of you guys might see me do it. So like I'm up in the North Shore of Massachusetts. So like there's not that much diversity. Like there's probably like you're having an easier time finding a t-shirt on LL Cool J and one of his old rap videos than you will like finding a black person in the North Shore. So to a lot of people, I'm like this like militant dude. I'm just wearing my clothes because I like wolves and I like Towns. The closest I'm gonna be in the NBA, baby. But so I'm wearing that, getting weird looks, and also I got to explain to my kid like what's going on and try to explain to him like in a friendly way. And the weird thing is that like like, you know, I'm in an interracial relationship. You can probably guess by the way I talk which she is. Anyway, so my kids are light skinned, and but like they tan pretty easily, and it's funny because like I know when they've tanned enough, when like white adults will stop talking to them, but like white girls will talk to them. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, they got enough melanin in them right now. So they don't quite get it still. They understand that like being black can have like many different hues. And even in my own family, I have people with mixed relations. I have people who have two, you know, black parents, but there's the different like skin tones throughout it. So they kind of think that almost like race sometimes is like how long you've been in the sun for. You know what I mean? So they don't quite get why like all this stuff is happening. And I've been trying to explain to him, I'm picking my 8-year-old, like why this is happening on top of trying to explain to him where do babies come from. The thing's just been crazy. Like, and I realized like, I'm sorry this is going all over the place, but again, I haven't talked to like non-family humans in a while, so forgive me. I'm sorry. I just got a lot of stuff to get off my chest. Soon we're gonna talk about geometry, but I think like maybe some of the comics will understand this. It's like, again, back to basketball. There used to be this old NBA commercial where this guy was like trying to buy shoes, and he bought, I think it was like Shaquille O'Neal shoes. And Shaquille O'Neal, if you don't know, he's like 7 feet tall. And the guy who's buying shoes was like 5'5". And Shaquille's got like a size 20 shoe and the guy doesn't. So the joke is that the guy's trying to fit into Shaquille O'Neal's shoes and walk around in it, right? And I kind of felt like, you know, with what I was doing was kind of trying to walk in my dad's shoes and my mom's shoes in a sense, trying to feel like how would they do it, you know, try to be strict when they were strict and not strict when they're strict. And I feel like I wasn't really doing it the right way because it wasn't doing me. It's also like the very first time I did stand up, I remember getting up there and introduced me. I think he introduced me as Rashad, whatever. And as soon as I get the spotlight, like all my jokes just went. I forgot my jokes, and I started doing material. I've never done this before or since of Robin Harris, which is one of my favorite comedians, a big influence on me. If you don't know Robin Harris, look him up. He is a very influential like comedian to many black and white comedians. He was just an amazing comedian, and I haven't done it since, which is why I get kind of like nervous when people come up to like similar jokes to me. I get like really frustrated with that. But anyways, but then I learned that wasn't really fun for me. I was just kind of like a little moment. But I feel like it's more. I have the most fun when I'm being myself, right? And I'm starting to do that with being a parent. But problem is that like you got to be kind of introspective. Like the other day I was trying to think about like, okay, how can I better myself so I can be a better parent for my kid? And then I was thinking like, I don't know. I've had more than one multi-level marketing job. Have any of you guys have a multi-level marketing job? I've had more than one of them. I've had like 5 of them. Like one is too many multi-level marketing jobs. And I've had way more than that. And I feel bad about that, but I'm trying to get better at it. Like, I think one more thing I want to say is that I've been trying to expand my horizons. Like I've been trying to learn Spanish, and it got to the point where I thought I could order a burrito in Spanish. And then I quickly found out that I do not know Spanish when I started to order like yo quiero burrito. I don't think I got that far because the person was like, "Excuse me, sir, do you want a burrito? This is Qdoba. Would you like a burrito?" And then she went to talk to the other person, like this person's trying to speak to me in Spanish, and she said it in Spanish, and I said in English, "I'm just trying to speak Spanish." And my kids are like super embarrassed. They're like, "Oh man, Dad, we should have curbside pickup. Why were you doing this?" So, in conclusion, I think that I don't know what you guys are doing. I'm not sure what you guys are up to, but I know this has been pretty tough. I would want to say that, like, I think that whatever you're doing is fine. It's good enough, and we're gonna get through this fine. And then I also would like to say, if you guys have any good ideas on how I can explain to an 8-year-old where babies come from, head out your boy. Because he doesn't want to know, and I don't want to tell him. That's it for me. Thank you.
Give it up for Rashid Towns. That was fantastic. Thank you. Let's see. I want to tell you first off, my mom, when I got old enough to know what sex was, my mom just left period pads and photos of Madonna lying around the house in weird places. So as long as your child doesn't think that babies come from Madonna, I think you'll be okay. I think that that might be, you can get a step up on that at least.
Nice.
Um,
She had a book,
I,
right? Didn't she have a book, a sex book?
yeah, she has a sex book, but this is before that existed.
Okay.
I was, this is in the early 80s when Madonna, I think my mom just thought like, kids like this.
Right.
I'll put it next to this other stuff.
She's like George Michael, Cyndi Lauper. Oh, Madonna. Yeah, Madonna.
Yeah,
Mr.
right.
Religious.
Right. So it was very weird, didn't make any sense, and I didn't like Madonna. So didn't work in any way. I have been, one of the things that I've been really excited about, I feel like it's a really intense time, and I hope that some of you guys are going to protest and writing to city councilors, talking to your fucked up racist family members, wherever you might find them. I've been, one thing that's been hopeful about this situation for me is that they finally started making woke clothes in my size. Like it's finally mainstream enough that there are woke clothes that like fit me. I mean, you guys have met me. I'm all about optics. I am definitely just a person who's buying the t-shirt and then going home and not doing anything. So here's the thing. A few years ago, I wanted to buy a t-shirt that said Antifa on it, which is wrong if you think about it for 10 seconds. If you are interested in being against fascism, you don't buy the t-shirt that says that's what you're doing. That's just like the opposite of how that works. But I kind of realized that, but I was like, man, I really want this shirt. I want to give this money to to these people who make the shirt, and I want a shirt that says that. I think it's fun. And so I bought the shirt, and it was like 4 sizes too small. And I finally, just in the last like several months, was able to get like shirts for women, for fat ladies that have cool messages on them. And that is cool because, man, like this past weekend, I went to a protest outside the Bank of America in Harvard Square for reparations. And man, when a fat middle-aged white lady rolls up to your protest for reparations, it's a bad look. You feel bad. I feel bad. You feel bad. It doesn't work. And it helps if I have the shirt. That's all I'm trying to say. So I hope you guys are doing that. One more time for Rashid. I hope that your son grows up to find out that I have no idea where babies come from. So I hope you guys figure it out together. I hope you guys solve the mystery.
From your lips
maybe
to
this
Madonna's
Scooby-Doo
ears.
van can go on a mystery solving journey to the center of a vagina. I don't know how that works. So I'm excited for our next performer. She's fantastic. I don't get to see her that often, but when she comes to the Boston area to do shows, I'm always super impressed. She's really sharp. I feel like she's one of those performers who like just showed up already knowing how to do everything, which is impressive and cool. And she's very, very funny. So please give it up right now for Harper Lyles.
Thank you. Oh my God, I gotta like fill those shoes real quick. Okay. So my quarantine, the theme, like no one has said the theme out loud, and I feel like we're 3 performers deep, and I'm the 4th one, and I'm going to say the theme out loud.
It's okay.
But the theme was the most illegal thing you've ever done, and I had to really sit and think about that because, you know, just by melanin alone, not a lot that I do gets classified as illegal, and then I don't go further beyond that to draw attention to myself. I've never been arrested. I'd never done a lot of things super out loud to get arrested. So I had to really think like granularly, technically, bureaucratically, what illegal thing have I done? And I finally figured it out. And it's kind of a little thing. So I'm high risk for COVID. And so I'm just in fucking doors until we figure our shit out. Like there's no like half-ass social life or rooftop shows for me. I'm just fucking indoors. The condition that I have is what they are finding in people who have long COVID. So I don't want to get like real COVID and like have long COVID on top of this. I'm already half disabled, so let's not go full disabled. So back when I lived in Denver, I was in a disability theater troupe, and I met this guy named James. James also has a neurological disability, but it's a different kind than I have. So we're kind of a complementary set, as it were, in terms of neurological illnesses. And James is a very good looking man. And over several years, we would like be interested in each other, but one of us would be married, or interested in each other, but one of us would be dating. And oh, darn, we're not the kind of people that are going to wreck somebody's home, but eventually we did date. We dated for a couple of months, and James's career was that he was a military police investigator for the Air Force prior to us meeting. So his job literally was like to fly all over the world and arrest people for financial crimes against the military. So he was like, a bastard cop, but like a really cool job title, bastard cop. Like, so it was okay. And he was in between federal jobs at the time. And so I smoke weed for my health conditions and because I like it. So in that case, I was like, well, I smoke it to go to sleep. I am useless going to sleep without weed. So I say, can I smoke weed to go to sleep? And he's like, not in the house. I have to take polygraphs for my federal jobs. They're going to ask me, has anyone ever consumed illegal drugs in your house? So as long as you're on the porch, I won't fail my polygraph. And I was like, wow, we're getting this granular with this? My God, I can't even go in your garage? No, outdoors like a dog to do your weed, you criminal. So I was like, okay, fine. It's Colorado. It's legal here, but okay, I'll go out in the snow to smoke my weed. Fine. So anyhow, we break up eventually. I moved to Connecticut eventually, and life carries on. And then he enrolls in a master's program at the University of New Haven. And I was like, oh shit, it's an online program, but he has to come into town every, oh, sorry about that. It's just moving against my lap. I'll just support it. All right, cool. So he flies in last year for a comedy show. Actually, he flew in last year to do his orientation at UNH, and he comes to a comedy show here in New Haven, which I was like, oh wow, okay, you knew me when, and you're going to come see me do comedy. That's freaking great. And he says, so yeah, these days I'm an investigator for the Department of Defense, and they've got me based out of DC. And I was like, they got you based out of DC? He's like, yeah, so I work the Pentagon, I work the CIA, and I work the White House. And I was like, get the fuck out. So you're investigating the Trump administration and all that jazz. He's like, yeah, I am. And I was like, well, fucking spill. And I just want to actually tell you guys some of the anecdotes that he was comfortable enough telling me that have never been in the press, but they're so small potatoes compared to what's actually happened that they're just so funny. So he tells me that the shittiest thing to him that the Trumps are doing is politicizing the military. And prior to the Trumps, as I'm sure all of you intelligent people know, the military just didn't fuck with that shit. But since the Trumps have come into power, the favoritism has happened within the military. Things on like Air Force One have become more privileged positions. Promotions have become political. It's become bad, actually. But his job is to investigate like financial crime. And so he is running expense reports for people in the Air Force, and he comes across an expense report, $10,000 for 125 luxury golf umbrellas. And James is like, this has to be bullshit. This has to be code for porn or drugs or prostitutes. What are you doing? And so James is a big enough of a guy. So he gets the guy in. He's in the investigator room doing bastard cop shit. You know, what is this? What is this? And the enlisted is like, no, 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 no. It's real. It's real. He doesn't like the sun. And everybody kind of stops because it's pretty obvious who he is. It's capital H, he. It's president, he. And so James just kind of turns off cop, mode and turns on, spill the fucking tea mode and is like, well, tell. And so when the cameras are not running, so with Air Force One, the president, and Marine One, the president has the option of a press pool to film him getting on or getting off the helicopter, and he can turn that off whenever he wants. So when he is being filmed getting on Air Force One or Marine One, you might notice he usually has a dress Marine with an umbrella, single umbrella, walking over him. When the press is not there, he has 125 fucking Marines form a canopy of goddamn luxury golf umbrellas for his fucking busted can of biscuits orange ass to walk right back to the fucking White House. And I was like, are you kidding? Are you kidding? This is so great. Like, and since then I've been like watching the news, like, when's this going to come out? Because this is good shit. And then it's like, oh yeah, no, he's like way worse than that. So it's just never going to break in the press. But I feel like, but I will tell everyone I meet the story of Trump and the 125 luxury top dollar golf umbrellas that he uses to shelter his ass that I learned from my Fed ex-boyfriend who made me smoke weed in the snow like a dog. And that's my story.
Oh, Harper, thank you very, very much. I hope your boyfriend does a piece for the revolution and shoots at least one administrator in the face.
He's in the Space Force now. He's an investigator for the Space Force at this point, so it's just gonna get weird.
That'll do. I appreciate it. That is insane. I mean, yeah, I don't like outside, but the arrogance to make a bunch of people stand with umbrellas for you is kind of outrageous.
I know.
I'm gonna think about that. There's a bar which I think is too corporate to close in Central Square, where they have these particularly big sit under them to eat umbrellas that are those exact kind of umbrellas.
Yeah.
And all that actually happens is that the people who are waiting to buy drugs at 7-Eleven sit in those chairs under those umbrellas anyway. And I am going to think about the better use of umbrellas whenever I see that. So that was a great story. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey.
Fantastic. Okay. So I'm super psyched for our next performer. She has a show right now called Comics Rising that I hope you will seek out and buy tickets to. She's super, super funny. She's one of the best performers in New England, super great. So please put your hands together right now. Give it up for Reese Cotton.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for having me, Angela. I'm psyched to be here. So my theme was basically something like a childhood dream come true. Took a while to think about that. Childhood was so long ago. You know, you try to forget shit, but I just went ahead and was like, all right, there's quite a few things that have happened. I'm might not go in order, but just to break the big notes off to you, basically, when I got my first motorcycle, that was a huge childhood dream come true. I always wanted to I was wanting to kind of be on the edge, the cutting edge, be able to drive as fast as I want to drive, you know what I mean? That's since not the case. You know, I'm older now. The speeding tickets, you know, they can go up after a while, you know, hurt your pockets. You'd be like, all right, I'm cool. But yeah, so I definitely had that speed demon type thing going on where I just wanted to drive fast, and race other motorcycles and stuff like that. So I had a lot of fun. Another thing was getting to go to China as a kid. That was big. As a teenager, to be more specific, that was a big thing for me. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And this wasn't exactly a childhood dream, but it was such a euphoric moment. It was getting to meet Kevin Hart when I was much older, right? And as a comedian, of course, I mean, fucking career goals, right? So we'll start with China. So I went to a school that don't want to come across bashing the school, right? Because that's certainly not the case. But I happened to go to a middle school that deemed me too slow to take a second language like Latin, French, Spanish, you know. So I was sent to the special attention room, if you will. I don't know what the proper term is for it now, so I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not trying to get canceled on top of a pandemic. That's quite all right. I'm gonna keep this PC as I can. So I was in that room with the other students, learning hooked on phonics or whatever the hell was going on. And what I ended up doing was, at the time, because I had such a fascination for the Chinese culture, due to all of like the VHSs of martial arts that I got to watch with my mom as a kid. She would like put these in and we'd watch them together. Ironically, eat Chinese food. I don't think we meant to do those at the same time. I think that's just what would happen. You know, hanging out with my mom, spending time with her, eating Chinese food and watching martial arts. And I was so fascinated by the videos that I took it a step further. Like when the Chinese characters like scrolled across the screen, I would have my dictionary, my Chinese to English dictionary that I got from Chinatown. And I would go ahead and I would like try to find the characters to match the words. Like I did my own translations. I had to be probably maybe in the 6th or 7th grade by now. I can't remember exactly. And when kind of my school got wind of that I was teaching myself Chinese, and even went to the extent of taking Chinese classes in Chinatown. You know, by the time I got to high school, I was more than a candidate for getting to be part of the exchange program, and moved to China for a beat to study over there, in their high school, the Gaoxin #1 high school, if I remember the name correctly. And it was in Xi'an, China. That city is probably most famous here, at least, for the Terracotta Warriors. So I got to see those. This was really dope. I saw that exhibit. And I don't want to really like age myself. I really don't, but I'm gonna, right? This was also during the SARS epidemic. So I didn't get to stay for the full like exchange period, like the full year. We had to like fly home immediately as soon as SARS broke out. But I did get to see some amazing things, and I did get to meet some amazing people. I know Justin. I think it was Justin Bieber who put a video online, and he's like on the Great Wall of China, and there's like nobody for miles or something like that. So I don't know if he was able to pull that off because he's like a celebrity or whatever, and maybe he paid somebody, or maybe his fame did it for him. We didn't have to pay nobody. We had that wall to ourselves, right? Because we're in the middle of, you know, this epidemic, this SARS epidemic. So, we're supposed to like, you know, just focus on getting back to Beijing and all the students flying home. But, you know, my my host teacher that traveled with us, she was very adventurous. So we got to do a lot of cool stuff. I'll never forget that. I should post those videos at some point online. because I still have the videos and like photos from that time. It's so surreal, is because I'm such a different, not I wouldn't say different, but my life has changed so drastically from that time. And I'd even went to college with the purpose of pursuing a degree in Chinese, more specifically the Chinese language and culture, that being Mandarin, as well as international relations, because like I wanted to work at the UN, or some real I don't know, like I don't know if I wanted to be a politician or if I wanted to like work at the UN and help like heal the world or whatever, but I'm glad I didn't waste my time, because it's 2020 and wow, it's just what I mean, can you imagine just trying to work in this climate, trying to make the world a better place? you just wow, the forces, may the good forces be with us, because I think I'd be stressed the hell out if I was a politician that kept it, or or even a translator, like wouldn't really be working right now, I don't think, because relations between the countries. I'm getting off topic, but relations between the two countries, our two countries aren't doing too good right now. But let me see, what else? Motorcycles. All right, motorcycles. I talked about something interesting about. I got my motorcycle. I don't remember how old I was, but I'm sure I was a teenager, because it wasn't too long after I got my license. And yeah, I love to drive fast. And interesting fact is, so my favorite colors are red and black. So that's a motorcycle. I still have that motorcycle. I can't seem to give it up. I can't seem to sell it or anything. Like it's literally just rotting in storage because I can't let it go. Like I'm just, what happened was I had a motorcycle, and then my neighbor convinced me to adopt his dog, which is now my dog that you may or may not know. He has his own Instagram, Max Cotton Comedy on Instagram. So my dog Max, and what my neighbor told me the dog would cost a month, exponentially more in like real life. He pitched me this idea. I was like, oh yeah, the dog will cost you $40 a month to take care of at the most. And I was like, oh, I was very naive at the time, because I know nothing about taking care of a dog. But yeah, it's exponentially more, like more than 10 times, probably closer. I don't really want to get into money because I really don't have none. But anyway, that's why my motorcycle, I don't really get to joke about it much or anything like that, but because it's in storage, and I have a dog, and I look at my dog. I wonder if that's how people look at their kids, because you had to maybe had to give away your yacht, or maybe you don't get to like golf as much because you got like kids. I look at my dog like that. I say, wow, if I had no, I'm happy to have them, but it's still like I didn't know I was gonna have to trade my motorcycle to be able to take care of the dog. It's a lot. Oh yeah, fun fact. So the first time, this is really sad. So the first time I fell on my motorcycle was actually when it wasn't moving, and I had it for quite a period of time. I don't know why. It's funny to me because it's so embarrassing, but to like have gotten your motorcycle license and to be like ripping and running all over the city, crossing state lines, like doing your thing in motorcycle groups and whatnot. And then just one day, like the first time ever, you fall. It's not because you were like speeding and or someone cut you off. It's like nothing dramatic, like literally just out front of my residence. I don't know what happened. I was sitting on the bike, and then God was like, nope. And it was over. I was toppled over. It was so embarrassing. I still don't know what that was. Let's see. Okay, so all right, so here's the last one. So getting to meet Kevin Hart, a very euphoric experience, a very like dope experience. But it felt like it felt like a childlike moment because it was just so surreal. So basically, long story short, here in Boston, there was a audition to be on Heart of the City. That's Kevin Hart's show, produced, I believe, by Joey Wells, and it aired on Comedy Central. And get through the auditions, and it's it. You know, I get the call that I made the auditions, which is great. Like I made it to be on the show, which is great. But then like months go by, so I'm kind of like, you know, kind of like all the excitement that I had or whatever had kind of subsided, because I was like, I don't know when this is gonna happen. And then it happened. Like Kevin Hart comes to Boston. They they turned Slade's Bar and Grill inside out, which is also where I do comedy at for the Black Comedy Explosions, or used to until the pandemic. We'll see what happens with that. And we freaking get to like meet Kevin Hart. I told somebody, like, I never want that feeling again. You know what I mean? Like, I never want anyone to have that type of power over me. When I saw Kevin Hart, I damn near went blind. It was like looking into the sun. I'm not happy to admit that. That's a very, you know what I mean? Because I don't like when celebrities have that I don't know what the word is, but I don't like being, you know, like looking at a hot chick or something, like just unbelievably hot. You're like, oh shit, you know, you can't even fathom. But it lasted for like 2 seconds, because ain't nobody gonna have power over me like that, you know. So you know yeah. So shit, even talk about it, I can't even keep my words together. It's bullshit, man. I'm sorry, I don't even know if I'm allowed to swear on this, but yeah, getting to meet him was dope. But it was really that moment where it's like you see, oh right, I'm gay, so you guys don't even have a reference point. So like, I'm gay, so like getting to see a beautiful woman was amazing. Like, it takes your breath away. It was like that type of feeling. But it's a man, and I don't get down like that. And even still, like a celebrity, like I don't like anyone having that kind of power over me. So like, no one. Like maybe if I see Michelle Obama, but still, it's gonna be very short. It's gonna be very brief, because no one is gonna take my breath away unless I want them to. I think I'm done.
Oh, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. Give it up for Reese Cotton.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I love what you had to say about Kevin Hart. I agree that my type, like the person who makes me be like, and then I can't talk for a second, is basically a boy who looks like Ichabod Crane, like too thin, might fall over. I definitely should not stand next to a person like that. I could, you know, block like 4 of them with block my light. But I know exactly what you mean. It's your whole heart turns over, and then you're like, oh, I got to shut that off.
Yeah.
I also want to tell you that I have last year I had a new job, and I got like a bigger tax return than I expected. And so I was like, oh, I should buy a cool thing. I can buy a cool thing, which never happens. So I bought an electric bicycle thinking that I would be able to like scoot around and have like a almost motorcycle. I wasn't quite strong enough for a motorcycle, but almost. And I rode it like 4 times, and every time I crashed into a parked car. I basically look like a circus bear riding it. It's like this little teeny tiny bike that's real low to the ground, and I just like plop over the whole thing and then fall down every time. So you're doing good on the motorcycle. They fall down. They just don't stand up. So you're doing all right. That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got 1 performer left. I'm pretty psyched. This guy is very, very funny. I'm super excited to see his quarantine haircut because it makes him a dead ringer for his brother, who is well known around Boston as a comedian who's not as funny as our next performer. He's great. He's very, very funny. Lives right here in JP down the street from me, and I love him. Please welcome Jeff Medoff.
Hey, thanks, Angela. I'm glad to be on the show. My hair is fucking nuts at the moment. So, and I'm like a visual of that Ichabod Crane too skinny guy that you were talking about. So I'm a good follow up to that story. Yeah, it's gotten bad. I have a story today that I'll delve right into, and I'll say the theme at the end because it kind of doesn't relate. But my story is actually about doing drugs and playing in a classic rock band. So I'm gonna follow up your music story about your starting music with one of the most traumatic experiences I've had playing music when I used to be in a band. So when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I was in a classic rock band. My hair was even longer than it is right now. We were all like these little twerps who got into playing music. We had hair that was like down to our shoulders. We all looked like brother. Everyone confused us because we were just a bunch of curly-haired white boys. So everyone thought we were brothers. And I do stand-up comedy now. And if you think that doing stand-up gives you like fame and fortune, try being a classic rock band in 2009. That's how you really want to start a following, is like everyone around you loves Kanye and Drake, and you're listening to like AC/DC and Tom Petty. That's how people really start to like you. But we were playing music a lot, and so we were like getting a little bit more into feeling ourselves about being a band. And eventually it got like, we got the idea in our heads that if we're going to be a band, we got to start smoking weed, because that's what bands do and that's what musicians do. And this was obviously like before weed was legal, and it was like cooler. It like, I don't want to say it was cooler, but it was cooler because it was like sketchier. Like weed was hard to come by and you had to work. You couldn't just go to a store. Like you were gonna at some point in getting weed have to get into a Subaru Forester, and like you were gonna have to talk to a dude who had like a nickname even though you knew who he was for like your I actually, just as a quick sidebar, the weed shop I go to now in Brookline is called Netta. And I love that name because I really appreciate they gave it the name that a shitty high school drug dealer would also give himself. Like, I appreciate that so much about Netta. Netta sounds like the dude you go into and he's like, hey, man, call me Netta. And you're like, I've known you since first grade, Spencer. Why would I call you that? But anyway, so we started getting into weed, and we were like stupid. We only ever smoked weed around each other. So, like, we never really went out. We didn't know how dumb weed made us because we were private. We were like, used to just go into the woods and smoke and hang out around each other and never knew. We never really got caught. One time, me and my friend almost got caught. We skipped class and went to smoke near the high school. But again, we were idiots. So we walked by the high school, and our shop teacher, whose class we were cutting, saw us walk past the school and could have easily screwed us over. He didn't, because he didn't care that we were cutting his class because it was a shop class. So he didn't care. But like, he could have gotten us then. Also, another quick sidebar. He saw me next week and he said, hey, Medoff, I saw you and your friend Chris out there together looking a little light in the loafers. So he was like giving me shit for being high. And I was just like, oh, no, I wasn't. I was just like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. But I learned later that being light in the loafers is like an old fashioned way of saying someone is homosexual. I didn't know that. Like, that's. So I was like, was he saying I was high, or did he think I was cutting his class to like explore my sexuality? I have no idea. But I reacted like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. So he was like, did I just out the gay kid in class? And he just gave me a set. He had no, I don't know what, to this day, I don't know. And I should probably hit him up and maybe smoke weed with him to get the answer. But yeah, so we were idiots when we smoked, and we were getting into being a band a little bit more, and we were starting to get to know some bands. And we landed this really cool show that was in Wakefield. We grew up in Swampscott. We got this show in Wakefield from this other band we saw at a show that was like super cool. We thought they were awesome. Like, they did cool. They had longer hair than us, which was very cool. Their lead singer at a show, he wore a skin tight cheetah onesie, which there's something about playing music where it's like the closer you can get to doing it naked, people think you're better at it. I don't know how that works, but like, a musician, if they're naked, people are like, no, don't show your body when you're a musician. It's like, no, do that because people think it makes you better. It's like when people say smoking doesn't make you look cooler. It's like, fuck you, it makes you look cooler. It just is, okay? I'm not. So these dudes, they were super cool. They asked us to come do a show in Wakefield in the church of a basement, because that's where you play rock music in 2009, is in churches and basements. So we go there and we're like, hey man, we're like a cool band now. You know what we should do? We should all like smoke weed and then play the show. That's what we'll do. We'll like go there and we'll all get high and we'll we'll do this show and we'll be like fucking badasses and they'll think we're so cool. So that's what we do. We drive in my friend's dad's Subaru, not a Forester, whatever the big one was. And we go there and we clam bake the Subaru, which I actually thought it was called clan bake at the time. Like I was calling it clan bake while we were smoking, and they were all giving me looks. That's how you know you're saying something stupid, is when a bunch of high school stoners are looking at you like, dude, what are you fucking talking about? So I learned a lot that day. But we smoked, and we had a while before we got on stage. So we wanted to go get food. So we went to McDonald's, and it was like a walk down the block. And I went and I bought, at the time, McDonald's had an item on the menu called a snack wrap. And it was like $1.25 chicken wrap that you could get in like a tortilla. And there's two things about the snack wrap with me. One is I fucking love snack wraps. They were delicious. And two, they made me throw up literally every time I ever ate. There's never a time in my life I've eaten a McDonald's snack wrap and not enjoyed it, but also not puked my brains out. And I actually was in Australia once and ate 8 snack wraps in a row in a challenge that I wouldn't throw up, and then threw up and lost a lot of money, but that's another story. So I go in and I'm very high and I forget snack wraps make me vomit. So I order like 4 of them and I eat them and have like the time of my life. And we're just sitting saying like whatever stupid shit. And then it eventually comes time that we need to go back to the church. So we walk back, we're high again. So we walk, all 6 of us walk single file down the street back to the church. Like it was like if Abbey Road, but the Beatles went directly to community college was what we looked like as we walked down the road. It was just so an embarrassment. And so we're walking down, we're like halfway there, and we see a family coming up on bikes. And there's a dad there, or there's a mom in front, there's a dad in the middle, and then trailing a little behind is a little girl who's like, must have been, she was riding a bike without training wheels, but it was still like wobbling in the sense of like it could go at any minute. So she's that young. And I look and I see the mom, the dad, and the little girl. And at that moment is the moment I remember that snack wraps make me vomit literally every time I eat them. And then all of a sudden I start feeling it coming up and I'm like, dude, you can't do this. And so I'm fighting my stomach and I'm trying to not act high in front of this family as a 16-year-old, but they start to pass. And as the little girl starts to like come up and like, I lock eyes with the girl's like looking at me as she bikes by and I'm walking by. And that's the moment I just go, and I throw up. And thank God I literally swerved away from her. It was like I looked at her and she made me throw up is basically what happened in this little girl's. I go into like the grass and just puke my brains out. And I hear behind me the little girl go, "Daddy!" And she like freaks out. And I feel so ashamed. I look over with like bit coming out and I look at the dad who's like gone back and like put his arm around his daughter and is leading her away, and he's looking at me like, what the fuck? And I'm like, oh, there's a show in the basement of the church if you guys like music and you want to come watch the band. I'm like, oh, and my friend's just like, you fucking idiot. And so I like feel worse than I've ever felt in my entire life. And luckily we go back to the band show and we get on stage and we proceed to play the worst show we've ever played in our entire life, because we were so stoned out of our minds, we all forgot how to play. There were certain points where the drummer literally stopped playing and was just staring at the drums, trying to remember what he was supposed to do. And that band, who we thought was so cool and was like, hey, man, we'll have a lot of cool shows. We'll invite you back anytime, never spoke to us ever again. They never, ever called us to do another show. They didn't ask to come do shows with us. So we were out. And yeah, that was a tough go. That was a rough time. And we all kind of felt like we should maybe stop playing music. But we stuck with it. And then 2 years later, my friend's basement, the guitarist's basement, flooded and all our equipment went underwater anyway. And he called me. I was like, dude, I think God just ate a snack wrap. And, so my theme was a time when the ceiling caved in, which only came in kind of towards the end with the flood. But that was the best I could do. Existentially, the ceiling came in on me, much like the snack wrap on that poor little girl's dream. So yeah, that's my story.
Oh, Jeff, thank you so much. That is the best origin story for a little girl's eating disorder that I've ever heard.
I like to think I'm an inspiration to the youth. Thank you.
You guys, that's our show. thank you very, very much. Every performer on here was amazing. I really appreciate you guys coming to the show. Thank you to the Comedy Studio for putting us up. And we will be back here to discover what other traumatic things might have happened to me and other people next week. Please join us once again for Tales from the Inside. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you guys were so good. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
nice job,
you for
everyone. That
having
was
me.
awesome.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that was a really good one. You guys were really, really good. I know somewhere early on there were some minor tech problems, but they got resolved pretty quickly. And when they were happening, I started recording. So I think we caught everything. And it'll be up for a day or so. If you want a recording, just write to Eli or write to me and I'll find.
Ooh, pizza's here.